Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coding Amateur. Today, I just want to share with you a component that I use for small projects, and I think it works great. It's an icon component. There are many libraries that you can use to install icons in your React projects, but I think that there are times when these libraries could be bloated and you want something simple and quick. So I would like to share this component with you using RemixIcon. So first, I will just create a project. So let's create a React Router project, npx create React Router at latest, and let's just name it icon comp, and let's hit enter. Yes, yes. Okay, so you just wait a while, it should be over soon. Okay, great. So let us navigate to that folder, icon comp, and let's run npm run dev. Oops, dev. Okay, and let's start up our right. So our app is up and running. We want to modify it. We are not going to need all the bells and whistles because it's just to demonstrate our icon component. So let's go to our routes, let's go to home, and let's start deleting what we do not need. So we don't need this welcome component there, so let's just replace that with a div, and inside that div an h1 tag, and let's just put that as home. Okay, and let's remove this import, we don't need it, and let's save that. Okay, let's delete now the entire welcome folder. Let's delete that, move to trash. Okay, and let's check back. Okay, so we have, right, so to fix that error we just need to restart our, right, so we just need to restart our app, and you see our home. So let's just give that a little, make sure our tailwind is working nicely, and let's add some styles, text, let's make that big, 7XL. Let's make, right, let's just do 7XL, font bold, right, and let's make this div a flex container. So class name equal to, right, and that would be flex, and justify, let's do center. Okay, save that, and let's see what, right, and that looks good. Okay, let's just give it a little margin to the top, empty -10, and let's save that. Okie dokie, and there it is. So we have our app up and running. So first thing, let's create our component folder. So in app, I'm going to create a component folder. Right, and inside of our component folder I'm going to create an icon component, icon. Okay, dot tsx. Okay, and I'm going to do icon const that is equal to let's do a return and inside that return, for now let's just do a placeholder, which is a div, and we will just do h1 and we'll put icon. Okay, and let's export the default icon. Okay, so we just have these squiggly lines to deal with, and oh okay, that is that was very poor of me. Right, const icon, and I spelled icon with 2 N's. Okay, so let's save that, and we have our icon component. So let's call our icon component within our home run. So we have home, and we would like to display our icon, an icon underneath. So let us just do a div, right? And inside that div, let's call our icon. Okay, let's import it. All right, so we have imported our icon. Let's save that, and we should see our icon component. Okay, so that's flex, right? So it's in the flex container. So let's make this, let's change it, let's make this flex call, and let's do this item center instead. Okay, so if we do that, we should get icon underneath. Right, let's give it some padding or a margin on top. So let's do class name, and let's give it the mt-20. Let's give it enough separation. All right, so our icon component is visible. Right, so let's start building our icon component. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is to go to our remix icons, and we will be using remix as our base to create our icon component. So first up, I would click on an icon, and you would notice this SVG file. I want to copy this SVG file, and I'm going to paste it into our icon. So I'm going to replace this H1 with that SVG file, and I'm going to save it nicely. So there are some parts that we do not need right now. So we do not need fill current color. We do not need that. So let's delete that. Okay, and let's save that. Let's see what we get here, and we have nothing to display at the moment. So we need to modify this. So what I would like to do is to be able, in this component, to pass what is known as an icon. And then let's say the icon we want to pass is the sun. Add the sun to the icon, or let's say a plant. Add plant to the icon, and that should put into the icon component a range of different icons. So we could use this all over the app. Just take the icon that we want, put it into the icon component, and it will display the icon on the screen. So to get this working, we need to pass this prop to the icon from the icon component here. So let's just add it, icon. Okay, now you will notice that we are getting these squiggly lines. Device is used but never read. So where do we want to put this? So right where we have the path, this here, this value here is what will give us the icon that we want. So we want to be able to display this. So we're going to substitute this with this with this value that we are passing here. So let us replace this with curly braces. And then we are going to use template literals, because template literals allow us to embed an expression. This is what we are going to do. And this is how we are going to embed it. $sign followed by curly braces again, and then we're going to add our icon. All right. So this is how we're going to pass our icon to this, to the path. Now again, we have squiggly lines, and it says binding element icon implicitly has an any type. So that is TypeScript. So what we want to do is to say that it is a string. So let's do that. All right. So let's open up here, and we are going to put icon, and we're going to say that icon is going to be a string. Okay. Now icon, sorry, right. Now icon, we want this always to be present. We want this value, it must be present. We do not want to call the icon component unless it has an icon value. Now values that are optional, we could put a question mark so that you could use the component without that value, but in this case we need the icon, so we are not going to do that. So if you should try to call the icon component without the icon, without this icon here value, it is going to give you an error. Okay, so let's just try that and let's see. Right, it gives you an error. But if I put icon, see, the error goes, and I could now input the value, right? And I don't have a value yet, so you see that it is giving me an error. Okay, so we now have an icon. What we also need to add is a width and a height to our icon. So we want to add within the SVG, we want to add a width, and that is going to be equal to a value width, and we're going to also add height, and that is also going to be equal to the value height. Okay, now we want to also add these here, so it's going to be width and height, and of course we'll have to declare them as well. So let's do width, and that will be a string, and height will also be a string. All right, so let's save that. Okay, so we have our icon component is shaping up nicely. So again, we have this error here because it is looking for width and height, and those we don't want that to be optional, we want it to be required. So let us do, this is width, okay, and this is height. Okay, all right. So again, this here will show an error because we don't have a value in it, but we will eventually get a value there. So we are still building our icon component. So we have our width, we have our height. What we want to add now is fill, because we want to be able to change the color of the icon dynamically. So we want to add a class name, but we're going to use template literals again. So using the backtick, let's embed another expression, and this one is going to be fill. Okay, so we added the fill. Let's add that up here, and fill, it is going to be required. So let's do fill, and that will be a string. Okay. All right, that's nice. So these are required, and we can also add stroke width. Right, so let's add another one here. Let's make that, let's do stroke width. And let's add the type here. And that is also going to be a string. However, in this case, we want stroke width to be optional. So we want to be able to create the component, and sometimes you really don't need to adjust the stroke. So it could be optional. So we don't really need that. So we're going to make it optional. All right, stroke width. And there may be some styles that you may want to add in the future. So just as a safety net, I'm just going to add styles. And you can pass some more styles to the component, right? Styles. And I'm going to make this optional as well. And this will be a string. Okay, so we have our component, and that looks good. And I think that's it. That's our component, and I think our component looks great. So now that we have our component, we need to call our component and add the different values in order for it to be passed, the props, to pass the props down to our component. The thing is, what are we going to pass for the icon? How do we pass the icon we want to the component? Well, this is where we can make an icon library. So let's go to our component, and we're going to make a library for our icon. So let's call that icon lib.ts, iconlib.ts, and here we will add our icon. So let's say we want to add a plant icon. We will do export const, and let's call that plant, and that is going to be equal to the icon we want to use. Now this value that is going to be passed as a prop is this value here that is equal to D. So if we go back to our remix icon and let's click the arrow again, you will notice that this here is a string. So let's copy this string, which is the path D equal to a string. Let's copy that and let us pass that to our library. And let's save that. So that's our first icon. What we will do now is in our app home, we will import plant, and that's from the component library, the icon library. We will import it and we will pass it as a prop. Okay. And we have a height, let's give that 24. Sorry, a width 24 and a height 24. And icon is giving us an error because we did not add a fill. It's gone. So now we can add a fill using Tailwind styles, right? So let's just do fill, and let's give it slate dash 500. Okay, and let's click save, and let's go to our home page and see if we have we have an arrow, right? So I copied the arrow, right? So let's look for a plant. Sorry about that. Ooh, I copied an R. Right, so look, we have plant here. Okay, so let me copy the plant. Oh boy. So I'm going to copy the plant. And all I'm going to do in the icon library is replace this with the plant. Okay, dokie. And let's see if we get a plant this time. And we get a plant. Okay, so our component works great. So now we have a plant. Let's increase the size. So go into our home, we can increase the size of the icon. So let's make it big. So let's make that 75. And let's make that 75. All right, let's save that, and we have our plant. Okay, so let's call another component. So let's make this a flex container. All right, so let's make this a flex container. Let's just do space dot x dot 4. All right, and save, and we should have our plant. So let's add another icon. So let's copy this. Let's copy this icon. We're going to add it again. Oops. Right. And if we save, we should have 2 plants. Great. Now we want to add another icon. So let's go back to our remix icons. Let's say we want to add this flower. We just copy the path with the string. Copy that string. Let's copy it, and let's add that to our library. So we come here and we do export const, and let's do flower, and that is equal to, and let's save that. So now our library, in our library we have a flower. So let's go to home and let's import flower, and let's add flower. We replace this with plant, and let's save, and we have a flower. Okay, let's add one more. So let's see, we have a plant, we have a flower. Let's see another icon that we, okay, let's grab a community. Okay, let's just grab a community. In fact, let's grab some popular icons. So let's just say that you want to have your site you want your site to have a dark mode feature. Let's look for the sun and the moon. So let's look for sun. All right, so we have sun. So let's copy that string for the sun. Let's save, copy, and let's add that to our library. Export const sun, and that is equal to our library. Okay, let's try moon. Okay, right, we have a moon. Let's add the moon. Now it looks tedious, but actually I think it pays off in the long run. It's quite easy to implement, really. And as I said, if your project doesn't require a lot of icons, it's a small project, you could create your icon library with just the icons you need without installing the entire library. And let's copy that, let's save that. So we have the moon, and I will just add maybe a user and an email, right? So let's look at user. A user with a circle. Do I see that anywhere? Okay, no, I'm not seeing that, so I'll just grab, I know what I'll have to do. I'll have to use account, ACCOUNT. Right, this is what I want. an account. Right, so that's a popular icon, and let's add that to our library. So export const account. Okay, let's save that. And last one, we'll just add an email. Okay, so let's add email. Right, that's it. Let's just copy that. Right, and we have our icon library. Okay, so your plant, flower, sun, moon, account, email. So let's call them. So let's just add them. I'm just going to copy this. Copy. So which one do we want to call? So let's see again. We have sun, moon, account, email, right? So this is going to be the sun. So let me double check that I would have. Okay, so I like to capitalize the icons, the first letter. That's just a convention that I like. You can leave it all lowercase if you choose. I like this convention. So I'm going to the sun, and let's enter that again. That's sun. That's moon. And that's account. And the last one should be email. Right? Email. And if I hover over email and I click it, it says here add all missing imports, and I add everything one time, right? And let's click save. Let's go to our home page, and we have all our icons. Now let's change up the colors. So we have slate here. Let's make this yellow. Let's make this green. Let's make this here sky. And what could we do here? Purple. Right, and let's try that. Let's see. So we have all our colors here. I didn't change. Right, so I didn't change these two. I could just make this one red. Right, so we could change the colors there. So our colors are changed. We could adjust the size. So let's say we want to make this smaller. We could easily make this one 40. Make this 40. Save that, and we could make this one 24. 24. Let's see, we could make this one 50. Let's make this one 100. And let's make a very small one, and let's make that let's make that 10. Okay, and let's save, and let's see that. So we have all our different sizes here. So we could change the size, we could change the color, and we could manipulate them, right? So, and you see here that we can use the tailwind styles within fill to change the color of our icon. So that's it for our icon component. As I said, there are many libraries out there that you can use to in your React app to get the icons that you want. I love RemixIcons. And sometimes for a small app, I don't need to install a package. I could just create an icon library for myself, and I may just need about 4 or 5 icons. I put them in the library, I take my icon component and I can call it and then pass whatever icon from the library I want, and I can manipulate all the fields that are important to me, which is the size and the color. And I think that's most important with icons. And you can also, as we saw here, we could also manipulate the stroke width if we should choose to do so. All right. So that's it. Play around with the icon. If you like it, you can play around with it, and you can check Tailwind. So you can see the styles you can use in Tailwind to manipulate the icon, and you can modify it. You can add other values if you like, but this is simple and it works. So if it works for you, then feel free to use it. If not, well, then you could fall back to whatever library that you feel comfortable using. So that's it for the Coding Amateur. Hope you like this video. See you in the next one.